Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories and Business. And this lady has lots of stories to share with us, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and then we'll just dive in. So today's guest is Melissa Rodway. She's a traveler, a storyteller, and she's an author of the book, The People You May Meet. So we'll have links and everything in the show notes, but that book is available on Amazon. Melissa doesn't just travel for scenery. She travels for soul, for connection, for the conversation with strangers that somehow feel more honest than the one she's having at home. Through her journey, she explores ego, judgment, purpose, aging, adventure, and what it really means to know when it's time to come home. I just love that when it's time to come home.
Mm.
So today we're going to dive in about how traveling shapes identity, why adventure matters at every stage of life, and what happens when we stop using our talents and start feeling uncomfortable in our own skin. This is just not about travel. This is about who we become when we leave and who we are brave enough to return as. Ooh, it's going to be good. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here. I appreciate it. Do you want to tell everybody a little more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks, Julie, for having me. It's a lovely introduction. But yeah, my name is Melissa. I live in Toronto, and I'm a very normal person. I have a 9 to 5 job, but I have been able to carve out moments for myself to lead a fairly adventurous life when I can. And that can be travel, that can be writing a book, that can be doing what you're doing. I had a radio show turned podcast for many years. So, yeah, I kind of just like to keep trying new things and evolving and pushing the envelope. But I'm a pretty normal person, so I'm very relatable.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Well, let's just dive right in. So, what does travel ego mean? What does it mean to you?
So, travel ego is a really interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about. But when you're out there on the road, I think in many different types of travel, but certainly with backpackers, there is a lot of competition, you know. How long have you been on the road? Everyone likes to say they've been out there even a few more weeks or months longer than the person beside them. How many countries have you been to? Have you been here? Have you done this? But have you done it like this? Like there's a lot of that chatter that exists in the old travel world, which I've always noticed but never really spoken about. And I just find it really silly because travel is a very subjective experience. We're all out there for our own reasons, and what speaks to me may not speak to you. And our shelf life out there, it's different for everyone. So this whole ego and judgment that exists out there is a really fascinating topic that I don't think a lot of people talk about.
Interesting. I never thought about that before, but I bet that would make complete sense that that's conversations some people are having. So, have you ever caught yourself judging others on the road? But I guess you've probably been felt judged because based on what you just told me.
Certainly, certainly. I also feel judged because I do a lot of group travel. So I go on trips often on my own with companies where you're with 10 to 15 other people. And so, you're traveling with like-minded strangers. And a lot of people will react to me saying that that's not real travel, or they judge you because you're not out there on your own. And I do both. I've done many trips where it's just me, myself, and I. I've done trips with a partner. I've done these kind of organized trips. And yeah, everyone certainly has something to say about it. And it's just, to each their own, because what again speaks to me may not speak to you. But certainly I have judged, people when it comes to probably cruise ships and all inclusives, although that's looking kind of appealing sometimes at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, we all have this built-in thing, but I, over the years, have tried to not be that way. And
Mhm.
and I just think, you know what, if people are out there doing what they love and they're not hurting anybody, then who cares as long as
Yeah.
they're out having an adventure. So that's more of my mindset as I get older, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, This one I'm curious about, and I've done a fair amount of traveling, and I have traveled once by myself, a long
Mm.
distance. So, not that I've done that much traveling or on my own, but I'm curious what you're going to have to say. So, what how does traveling strip away identity in ways staying at home never does?
I think there's something really beautiful about being away, and I think when you are on your own, it's even more beautiful. I mean, that comes with its highs and lows, and I'm never one to say that travel is all butterflies and rainbows because it's not. And I think the more we talk about that, the better as well. But what I think happens to you is, when we're at home, we're very influenced by our routines, by the people that we know are going to move in and out of our lives each day or each week or even each hour. We're in our communities. We're very kind of stuck in our how we get to work, what we're doing on Monday, blah, blah, blah. When you are away, there is something that happens to you, especially when you're alone, that you are no longer influenced by all of these things that I just mentioned. You don't owe anybody anything. You're meeting new people who have no idea who you are. And so, in some ways, you become your most authentic self, I think, because again, you aren't trying to impress anyone. You're not trying to fall into any identity categories. And the way that you speak to people and that you receive people and experiences is very different than when you're at home. When you can control things more, and when you're away you can't, and things happen all the time. Nothing is as it's going to go, and nothing is seamless. And just so, yeah, your reaction to people, to situations, to whatever can be very raw and very interesting and very revealing, really, of who we are.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite trip that you ever did on your own?
My favorite trip that I've ever done on my own. Well, it depends. Like if we're talking about my own with, a bunch of strangers, or my own, I can tell you actually. The best thing I've ever done is I went to Quebec City. You're from Canada, so this
Yeah.
might resonate with you. In 2023, I took a year off and I did a lot of trips around the world, but I also decided to go and live in Quebec City for 5 weeks in the winter on my own. And that's one of the best things that I've ever done in my whole entire life. So I love winter. So I was there in January and February, and that's all I did. I embraced winter to the max. Every day I was out cross country skiing or ice skating or snowshoeing or downhill skiing or whatever it is. Every day I did something. I was pretty much outside all the time. I loved the snowstorms. Quebec City knows exactly what they're doing in terms of shoveling and plowing, but I loved digging out my car. I lived along the St. Lawrence River, so I spent a lot of time down there just like watching the ice flows. I did a lot of things in the city as well. And then I also lived near a Nordic spa that was also pretty awesome. So my day was
Mhm.
basically like being outside doing something wintry, often going to the spa at night, or like reading a
Yeah.
book or having a bath and going to bed. And it was
Yeah.
the time of my life. I went to a French school for a week. I speak French, so that helped. But I really had no social life and I loved it. So that was one of the most beautiful time periods I've ever had in my life.
It just listening to you explain it sounds beautiful.
It
Sounds
was.
so peaceful.
It was. And if you
Yeah.
enjoy your own company, that's sometimes a really beautiful thing to do for yourself. It's a real treat to live like that.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds great. So, what's something traveling that has humbled you?
I think, the world is a humbling place, even when I've done a lot of hiking trips and cycling trips. So whenever you're in the mountains, you realize how small you are, that, we're not that important. And that people say that a lot in the scenery. Sometimes you just realize, how much bigger Mother Nature is than we are. But I think it's usually about people because again, we don't realize like what our reactions to people are going to be. And I think the thing about traveling is that we lose all judgment. Like I think at home, you can kind of, as I was saying earlier, control who comes into your environment. But when you're away, people of all walks of life, all ages, all shapes and sizes come into your world. And I think it's that where like you can have a moment where you start to judge somebody by anything, and then you start to talk to them, and it all goes away, and you just see these people as people, and everybody has a story, and everyone's interesting, and everyone is unique. And I think that it's always that, someone catches you off guard or surprises you with who they are, and that those are humbling moments for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So, do you take people on tours or you just go in groups with other people? Like I know you go in all sorts of different things, but do you organize tours at all for folks or?
No, people always tell me I should do that, but I actually hate trip planning. No, I use
Oh,
I use
yeah,
companies like G Adventures or Intrepid or Exodus. I usually just do active travel trips now. So these
yeah.
are organized with like 10 to 15 people. They know exactly where they're going. But no, I have never ever led a trip, and I don't know that that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just curious with all that you've done, whether or not you're what about friends?
It's interesting. I don't love to travel with friends in this way. I do really like meeting new people and having new experiences, but I have done a few trips where they've come along, and it's fine and it's fun and you have new memories. But I would say my preference is always to go on my own to meet
Yeah.
someone new.
I know exactly what you're talking about because my husband and I were talking about that um, one of our trips ago, and that's the thing. Like we have each other, so
Yeah.
there's no, we eat together, we do this together, we're over here together, we're wandering together. But when you're alone,
Hmm.
you're looking for other people. On the trip that I went to, I was it was just interesting how you're alone, but yet all of a sudden here's a bunch of people that are also traveling.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you like everyone. I
No,
mean, yeah,
no,
so
yeah,
I have found too that when I'm on group trips, I mean, those are special because you're with very like-minded people and you just feel like an instant connection to them. But I was in Mexico in 2023 on my own, completely on my own for a couple of weeks. And there I was doing the odd day trip, like a 2 hour walking tour or, a day trip off to see some ruins. And in those situations, you're just with people for anywhere from 2 to 5, maybe 10 hours sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
I find that a little bit more challenging because I'm not interested in short-term investment, you know, with people. So I find that a little bit more challenging, and that can actually feel quite sometimes a bit lonely those days because
mhm,
it's very fleeting. But again, it's all what you put into it, and yeah, it just again, you could meet someone fascinating and hang out with them for 3 hours and never see them again, or you just might not feel any chemistry with someone for a day or two, it's so interesting how it all works in the universe.
yeah. I think that women, I don't think men have this problem, but women have problems eating alone in restaurants.
Mm, sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. So have you dealt with that, or you can just walk into any old restaurant now and plunk yourself down and have a meal, or does
It
it still feel
depends.
uncomfortable?
It depends where I am. Sometimes I don't love it. When I don't love it is when you're in areas where there's couples everywhere, and
Mm,
it's not because I feel I mean, if you have a phone or you have your book, I mean, it's easy. But sometimes I just don't want to be around that. I just feel like I'd rather just eat by myself somewhere like on a picnic bench or looking out at the ocean. Like I just sometimes don't enjoy that environment. But
mhm.
yeah, I do agree that I don't love that part of traveling alone. Like I think eating is much more fun with people, and that part is a challenge. But yeah, if you have a phone or a book or whatever, I mean, anything's possible.
A distraction.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. So, what would you say to women that are, thinking about traveling? I mean, when I went on my trip alone, um, nobody was available to come with me. And I thought, I'm just going to go.
Mm.
Whatever. I'm going on my trips, and I did. But and a lot of people thought, "Oh, you're crazy to be doing that." And but I thought, well, whatever. I don't think I'm crazy. But so, what would you say to a woman who's thinking about like, should I go? Should I not go? What should nobody can go with me, or nobody really wants to go with me. What advice would you give them?
Well, personally, I would be thrilled if no one wanted to go with me. Um, I think that
Yeah.
it should not stop you. It should not hold you back. Because I've actually also I traveled with two friends. They were not my friends. They were friends. They were on a cycling trip that I did. And they struggled because one of them really wanted to like kind of meet new people in our group and the other one didn't. And so sometimes going with friends isn't great, right? And you don't maybe you're not friends afterwards. But I don't think you should let it hold you back. And I think if you're nervous, then do one of these trips that I do, like go with G Adventures, go with Intrepid, go with wherever, because you're alone, but you're not alone. But if that's not appealing, and again, it's not like you're like on a bus with 40 people, it's like 10. That's a good size.
Yes.
um but if that doesn't appeal, then I think traveling for women is as safe as it's ever been. I think you're never going to get lost. We have, GPSs on our phones. It's always easy to find your way. And then it's just like what I was saying, there are so many day trips that you can do. You could line up a whole week full of stuff to do. I have a friend that just went to Japan on her own. 2 hours after she landed, she was like with a hiking group for the day, going off into the mountains. I did
Wow.
the same thing. I was in Bogota in Colombia. As soon as I got off the plane, within a couple hours, I was on a day trip going around the city on a bike. Like, there are lots of things you can do every day with people that will make you not feel alone. And then you can have your alone time too after that. It's all what you want, but it's really easy. You're not going to be alone. You're not going to be searching for people. The world is not built like that anymore. It used to be harder, I think,
Mhm.
but now there's just so much to do that you like. I think there's no excuse.
Yeah, and I guess when you're joining that biking tour or walking tour or whatever it is that you're doing, they're all there for the same reason. So you're all sort of in
Totally.
the same mindset and
Yeah.
ready to enjoy and explore.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of these people. That's part of the reason I called my book The People You Meet, because the people you meet on trips like this are different than I've done things with strangers around the world that I've never done with some of my best friends, and it doesn't detract from my relationships with my best friends. I love them. But when you've like hiked an active volcano or hiked through the jungle or done all the crazy things that you do traveling, and you do that almost from the minute you meet them, there's an instant bond and an instant connection. And yeah, they get you. They get you in ways that your people at home will never get you. So you're starting in a different place with them. You tell them things. Maybe it's because you think you'll never see them again. But I think that there's also like a connectivity, there's a same mindedness, there's an understanding that no one really talks about. They just know that it's there. And again, it doesn't mean you love every person that comes your way, but you are on a different path and a different territory than you are with other people. And it's very liberating. And these are can be very beautiful connections.
Yes. So what happens when we stop seeking adventure? Have you ever had uh, a time in your life where you couldn't travel or you couldn't be adventurous, and what starts to happen there?
Yes, I'm in one right now, one of those periods. But the major one was after this trip that the book is about in 2010. I was gone for 4 months and I had quit my job. So when I came home, I had no money, I had no job. It was a disaster. And I didn't really travel for a few years. And that's when I created my travel podcast. It started off as a radio show. So I created what was called Fly Travel Radio, and that was my way of having adventures and travels for a few years when there was no money. But that was another kind of adventure. So I think if you can't go anywhere, and some of us it's not possible. I think
Mhm.
you can also find it in your everyday life. You know, we're all built with certain gifts and treasures and talents, and those in themselves are adventures. So getting on a plane is not actually the right adventure for everybody, and I don't blame people for that. It's not all, you know, sunshine and roses. So we pick our adventures, but exploring your talents. Like I did a round of stand-up comedy, then I wrote this book. So I think for me it's like engaging in what you've been given to you. That's an adventure all in itself.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. I agree so much is that yeah, if you have we all have so many talents
Mm-hmm.
and I was just talking to a girlfriend the other day and she's like, oh, I'm so bored, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, well, you should start painting because you're just such a beautiful artist. I've seen her paint sheds and stuff, but like big flowers and on them and stuff, and I'm like, why don't you paint? And she's like, I was thinking about painting. And I told her, you know what, I don't even know how to paint, but I was thinking about painting. So I agree. I think there's so many things. And also, uh, travel in your neighborhood, travel in your
Yeah.
own area.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say there's places in my area that I haven't been to,
Yeah. Well,
you
and I
know?
think that's what COVID taught us, right? When no one was going anywhere, it's like, well,
Yeah,
start looking around in your backyard, and you will discover that there's a lot there that we've never seen before, and that's so important.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what do conversations with strangers on the road, why do they feel different than at home? What's the difference?
I think that I think there's a lightness, you know. I mean, when you're on the road, so people talk about their jobs, but no, who really cares at the end of the day about somebody's job when you're meeting somebody? I think people who travel have a sense of humor, so I think that there's a lightness, there's a humor, but there's just a trust. There's an ability to share in a way that I don't think we do as much at home with strangers. I think, but it's also part of that adventure, right? You're like, who is this person that I'm suddenly sitting beside on a bus, and what am I going to learn? And it's just an openness. But I do really think that, um, and I think the other thing is like when you're meeting someone for the first time, and if you've been on many trips, that's an easy starting point. Where have you been? What did you like? You know, and that starts a path for many, many, many conversations. So it's having this thing in common from the get-go that opens the door. But yeah, there is it's just fun. There's an energy, I think, that's different.
Yeah. I think that people are, yeah, people are so interesting. I have a curiosity. I
Hmm.
want to know, who you are, why do you believe what you believe? Where did that come from? Just
Yeah.
all of those kinds of things. And it's just to understand and to learn because we don't know everything.
No. And the more we learn about other people and other cultures, I mean, the better off all of us will be, as
Yes.
we can tell from the world around us. So
Yeah.
there's nothing better than meeting new people and being open-minded to what they have to tell you. It doesn't mean you can agree or disagree, whatever you
Mhm.
need to do, but we all live differently, and it's so important to share that.
Yes. And we all come from such different places in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it makes sense that people that are good, they're going to think differently. We're all going to think differently, but understanding why do they
Mm-hmm.
think what they think?
Mm-hmm.
I just find that very interesting with people.
Yeah, me too.
Have you ever had an encounter that completely shifted your perspective, good or bad?
Yes, this could lead into another topic. So when I was on my trip in Southeast Asia, I met this woman and she was probably in her 50s. I was 35. And she was the one who taught me about knowing when it was time to go home. And that is a lesson that I have kept with me for many years. So we were in northern Laos, I believe we were trying to buy a ticket to get on a boat to go to the next village. And she was this fascinating woman who had lived a million lives and traveled everywhere. She was traveling at that point with her like 10-year-old daughter, I think. And she stopped talking for a minute and was looking at these two young girls that were in their 20s.
Mhm.
And she looked at me and she said, "They need to go home. It's over for them. They're done." And I thought, "What are you talking about?" And she just said, in every long haul trip, be it, more than 3 weeks, be it several months, there's a moment when you need to recognize that it's over and you're done and you've seen too much. You're no longer having fun. It's becoming a job. You're in a bad mood. And that's the moment when it's time to go home. And she said that's as important a moment as even deciding to go on the trip, because you're not
Mhm.
doing that country any favors to keep staying there. And that's also part of the ego and this judgment thing, that it's like we also want to prove to ourselves and to others that we stayed out there as long as possible. But if you're not loving it, then it's time, and your body is telling you that it's time. And
Mhm.
I am so glad she taught me that. And when I got to month 4 of my journey, I was like, I am done. I hate this. I'm tired. I'm missing home. I'm missing eating like my own food, my own bed, all of it. And so
Mhm.
now when I plan trips, I always have that in the back of my head, knowing that I have a shelf life of a month or 5 or 6 weeks at the most, and then it's time. And so I think that's a really great message that is not just about traveling, it's about a lot of things. I think we
Mhm.
don't always listen for various reasons, but our body knows when it's done with certain things.
And our nervous system knows. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's a fabulous lesson that you were able to pick up from her.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. I mean, we've my husband and I, we haven't ever gone anywhere for a month. That's kind of the goal one day. But even for us, sometimes we hit that 12th day and we know we've got 2 more days. We're like, oh, yeah, I know the feeling. It's like, oh, I just want to go home now. I'm tired of this food. And, we usually were at hotels. So it's a repetitive,
Yeah.
right? Every
Yeah.
Monday's back to Taco Tuesday or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I know that I don't know that feeling in depth if it was months, I
Mm-hmm.
but I certainly get it on the shorter term as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do the people we meet reveal about ourselves, do you think?
um I think that, yeah, I think again it's like this, it's like whether you're willing to pay attention. I was in Bolivia a couple of years ago, and there was a man there that was 83 from Australia, and he's back totally backpacking, didn't speak Spanish. Um
83?
yep. And he
Wow.
was just, yeah, he was incredible. And and it's stories like that, right? It's reminders that there's no age limit on adventure. And we tend to live in an ageist culture, I think, in Canada.
Mhm.
And when you go out there and you just see people that are just pushing their boundaries and their limits, it's a very good reminder. Last year I was in Italy on a hiking trip, and I was 50 at the time, was one of the youngest people on the trip. There were people in their late 60s and early 70s, and we were hiking in the Dolomites, and that is not easy terrain. And they were in incredible shape. They were way faster than I was getting down the mountain every day. And so I think these people remind you of what's possible, and they're inspiring. And, some of these people I'll never see again, and some of them I'll probably never even be in touch with them again, but they pop into your head at random times,
Mhm.
as reminders and as goals, and just to like keep things alive, that these things are still possible. It's just the
Mhm.
random people that you come across on your travels that taught you something about yourself. And or even there was a girl, I was traveling in South America a few years ago, and for some reason she just irritated me. And it wasn't her, it was me. So it was like, why? Like, I'm away, I'm in the mountains. what is this
Yeah.
about? So
Yeah.
it's even things like that sometimes where have the best intentions to go away and be open and receptive, and then there's something that just triggers you, and it's like I still think about that, like what was that all about? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating, right? Who
Yeah.
ends up in your lap when you travel and what they teach you.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband and I went on a tour where we do zip lining and all that kind of stuff, and and going into a cave, and just it was a lot of fun. And there was a family. There was two boys and a girl with their father who was very disabled.
Mm.
And I thought, how the heck is this guy who can hardly walk gonna get up those ladders? And he did with his and the like I just get shivers even
Yeah.
remembering. So I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sticks and that was years and years ago. And it's
Yeah.
still I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It was so
there's
beautiful.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
people out there doing unimaginable things.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. Yeah. So what inspired you to write your book?
So what happened is when I was on that trip in 2010, I was with a partner who had a purpose for being there. So he worked in luxury travel and he was going to create a business one day. So he had set up all these meetings at luxury hotels and with tour operators. But when you are the person without a purpose, and I was the tag along, and we had traveled many, like for 4 years before this, so we knew how to travel together, and this was not uncommon. He was always dabbling in that world, even though we were backpackers at heart. But when you're with someone for months on end who has something to do and you're just kind of la di da, it was hard for me. I was 35 and I'm not 25, so that's different. Um, and so, yeah, I started creating these stories in my head. And once a week, I would go to an internet cafe and email them out, like a massive email to friends and family. And the response I got from that was so positive. People loved it. They're like, send us more. Can't wait for next week, etc. And if I was smart, I would have started a blog and maybe I'd be sitting somewhere else at the moment. But whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that was my work after a while. So every week I started doing that. And then it took me many, many years, obviously. I mean, it just came out last year and I went on this trip in 2010. So I kind of sat on it off and on, was like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? And then a couple of years ago, I just thought, you know what, I have this amazing manuscript. I'm just gonna go for it. And so here it is.
Wow. And so
Mhm.
so do you have like what is it stories? Is it your interactions? What is it that you're talking about in the book? What did you write about?
So they're literally taken from emails. And
Oh,
these emails were edited a little bit because things you said in 2010, not so popular maybe in
right.
2025.
Right, 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 right.
So maybe it's good I didn't have that blog.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically it goes through every place we went. So anyone that's interested in that part of the world will get an incredible itinerary. It goes through adventures, people, but it's also very honest. It's about how I was feeling, about my relationship, my thoughts about being 35, about, I was not living similarly to anyone else in Toronto that was in my friend group. So basically, it's just takes you'll feel like you're on this journey with me through every town and city, through all these countries. It's very funny. You'll learn a lot about that part of the world, and I think it's relatable. I'm not some supermodel. I'm a normal person who decided to do this, and there's going to be adventures in there that you're glad that I did, and you will never do them because they're not easy. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. It's really fun. So it's a
Nice.
good read. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you hope that readers walk away with?
Well, it's interesting when you write a book because you think that it's your experience, so you don't really realize that they're going to interpret it their way. And you hear like singers will say that all the time. Once you put a song out, it's no longer yours, it's interpreted by the public. And I didn't really realize that, but it is true. So people come back to me. I've been to many book fairs and shows and stuff all over since last April. And readers will come up to me and just the things they say to me, I did not see coming. Like, just, I guess feeling relatable, feeling the honesty, feeling like I kind of gave them an outlet to tap into their own admissions and honesty and where they're at in their life or their own kind of adventures. I think there's a big relatability. And for me, I don't really care if people want to travel or not. I think a lot of people assume that I'm all, rah, rah, rah. I love travel. It's something that
Yeah.
I love to do. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I hope with this book, it inspires you to find your own passion, your own adventure, your own intuition. Really, that's what it's about for me. The rest is it's just a story. But
Yeah.
I
I,
think
I
it's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
relatability. No, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's yeah, I love what you're saying. It's like, well, you don't have to be a traveler, but
Mm-mm.
again, find what you're passionate about. Find what it is that you need to fulfill yourself. Because so many people that I know as well are, I don't want to say that they're empty, but what else is there? There's work, there's
Mm,
TV, there's family life, there's
mm-hmm.
bed, there's work.
Yeah.
We get into that cycle
Yeah.
of life, which I'm not saying there's anything bad about it, but it can get be mundane, and we need to have that excitement. We need that. We need something to look forward to. We need, like my girlfriend, I'm bored to death. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start to paint. I mean, all of a sudden she got that excited look on her face, and she's gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I think there's just, what can we do? We all have something.
I think it's really sad for, my generation, I'm sure your generation too. And I felt as a little kid that nobody taught you or talked about paying attention to the things that lit you up.
Mhm.
So when I remember being a kid and I loved singing in a choir, I remember writing a skit in grade 6 that went over really well with my teacher that was really funny. I remember putting on assemblies in high school. Um, but I walked through life thinking that everyone felt the same way that I did and that that wasn't special. And my message to
Mm.
anyone when they're young and even young at heart is like, pay attention when you do something and your body is vibrating. It's telling you that you love to do this and you should follow what you love to do because that changes everything. And when we ignore that and we pretend that these things inside us don't exist, then life's pretty boring.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's such a big lesson
Mm-hmm.
for people, and it's good advice,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, and I love what you said about being on stage and feeling that excitement and knowing that that's something that you enjoy. And it's sad if people aren't finding what they're excited about in the world.
Totally. Totally. And I think that as we get older and, when you're going to university, it's so young when you're supposed to figure this stuff out. And I probably didn't pick the right things. I wasn't paying attention to the vibrations,
Yeah.
but it's never too late,
No.
I mean, you can still experience these things. It might not look like what you thought it would look like when you're 10, but they're still available to you. They're still out there. And that was the great message that when I started my radio show, I thought, well, I didn't go to radio school. There's no way I could ever do this. And my friend was like, just go to the university, go to the community radio station. They'll teach you. And lo and behold, that's what I did. I created my own radio show. It still exists if you want to find it,
Yeah.
these things that we want to do.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I just have really enjoyed this conversation. It's really made me think
Ah, well,
about
that's
what do I
nice.
want to do next? What's my next adventure? So my husband, my husband's father is turning 75. So we're going on a my very first cruise ship. And I
Nice.
don't know how I'm going to feel about being on a ship with 3,000 other people, but I'm just going to go with the flow.
You might love it. I
I
mean,
I might love it. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm a more lay on the beach kind of girl, but that's okay. So
Yeah.
it'll be enjoyable. So, but yeah,
Good for
there's
you.
quite a few of us going. So that's an adventure that we're looking forward to for sure.
Oh, yeah. You have to
Yeah,
keep an open mind, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody is interested in getting Melissa's book or getting more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. She's going to have, or I'm going to have her links, how to find her in the show notes. So don't hesitate, and grab her book. It sounds like a really interesting read. It
Mm.
does. It sounds like it'll get your creative juices flowing.
It will, and it's also really funny if I do say so myself. Everyone says it's funny. It's not just me. So if you need a
Perfect.
laugh, it's good.
Perfect. Okay, well, in closing, let's get one more thing out of you. So, if someone is listening right now and they feel stuck, or they
Mm.
feel uninspired, or maybe they even feel disconnected, should they book a plane ticket or look inward first?
I say go for a walk.
I go for a walk, never mind the plane.
I think walking for me is the best way to make a decision sometimes. It's the person you
Mm,
are before you step out on that walk is not the same person as you are coming home. So go for a walk and think about, do I want to go on a trip or is there something else in me that I need to explore? And you'll probably have your answer after being outside for an hour.
wow. Well, let me ask you that was supposed to be my last question, but I want one more now because you said when you return from that walk, you're not going to be the same. What do you mean by that?
So I find even for me, because I'm trying to write a second book and I'm trying to figure out a few things at the moment, and you can get really bogged down with like thinking you're supposed to sit down and figure it all out. And I find if I just go outside and I walk around for an hour, by the end of that hour, things make a lot more sense and I have a lot more clarity and I'm more creative. And, you don't always do your best thinking sitting down and staring at a computer. Sometimes you're in the shower, sometimes you're on your way to work, sometimes you're going
Yeah,
for a walk. And
yeah,
that's when things your
yeah,
problems aren't going to go away, but you might have a little bit more of an idea of how you actually feel about things. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's how it works.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. You have given us a lot to think about.
Mm.
And yeah, I think I'm going to get that painting thing that I was thinking about. So now
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to try
Yeah.
painting. Who knows what talent I've got in me?
Totally. And it's relaxing too. It's
And
like, what
relaxing.
a good
Yeah.
thing to do. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah. Well, thank you as well. I appreciate you doing this so much. So remember, all of her information will be in the show notes. You'll be able to track her down and buy her book. It sounds like before you do anything, buy her book and I think it's going to help you to think. So thanks again. And thank all of you for being here on another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. And we will see you next time. Bye.